All right, it's another special edition of Daily Delivery. Had one last week, and we've got one again now. The news breaking Thursday afternoon that Lindsay Whalen is resigning as head coach of the Gophers women's basketball team. At least that's the official phrasing of it. We learned that early Thursday afternoon. Kind of a surprise, I would say, to a certain degree. Chip Scoggins with me right now. Chip, you just wrote a column about Lindsay Whalen that appeared in Thursday's paper off of the Big Ten women's basketball tournament, their loss to Penn State in that opening round game, arguing that things aren't great, but maybe one more year is deserved for Whalen. So your thoughts, Chip, on what we learned right away Thursday?
Yeah, I don't know if deserved is the right way to. I thought they would give her another year.
Makes sense.
Because of this freshman class, and you sort of built the foundation with Mara Braun and Maya Battle, and I thought they would give her another year to build on that and see if that can go somewhere. You know, they went through. You play a lot of freshmen. Let's see if that leads to something next year. I will say this: I don't know if they'll ever be truthful with us about whether it's resigning or firing. Lindsay didn't sound like a coach that was resigning yesterday, which tells me that Mark Cole probably gave her the option. And it's weird because of how beloved Lindsay is in this state.
Sure.
But I think amongst the fans, it'll be relief that she did not get another year, that this is going to end now. And my guess is Cole just felt like this was not going to improve substantially next year, that one more year would just be delaying a decision he has to make. I was probably the first one to champion this idea. I wrote it in my column that the very day that Marlene Stallings announced that she was leaving to go to Texas Tech last year, or in 2018, I said, call Lindsay Whalen first, and if she hangs up, call back until she accepts the job. I thought it was I thought her recognition and stature in the women's game, even if she had never coached, was worth the risk, considering where the program was at, that I thought it would translate to recruiting. I thought she would be able to bring in here, and even if she had to learn kind of on the job as a coach, that she would be able to bring in high-level recruits, and that would help. It did not work that way. It was a gamble. It was a gamble that backfired. I will admit that now. And so I don't fault Mark Cole for taking that risk. Women's basketball is not a revenue generator at the University of Minnesota. It's not like hiring Tim Brewster to coach your football team, where that program and the men's basketball program, you need financially to do really well. And so I understood the risk, and I championed it, and so I would have done it, but it just clearly didn't work out the way that people had hoped.
Right. So whether you term this a resignation, as they did, or like you said, and I think anybody who can read between the lines on things like this, it seldom is a true resignation, especially when a coach is struggling like Lindsay Whalen was. Ultimately, it might not matter what the framing of it was, or what the truth is. Although I want to spin back to Mark Coyle in a minute, but I want to get into a little bit of why didn't it work? Because no tournament appearances in those 5 years, and whatever you want to say about the Marlene Stallings era, they did have some progress on the court. She was, they had won some games and done some things there, and she's done some things since leaving here. Why wasn't Lindsay Whalen able to get this going here?
Well, I think it's sort of cliche, but it's true. Just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're going to be an effective coach. We've seen that in multiple sports. We've seen it. You can go through the laundry list of them. Clearly, if you watch your teams, there's something to be said about learning to be a coach as an assistant coach at different levels, and just not jumping in from your playing career and thinking you can coach. I mean, she had struggles.
Well, and she jumped in while she was still playing. Yeah. Essentially, she got hired during her final year with the Lynx. Essentially,
exactly, and she had some recruiting misses that led to players transferring out, players not being as good, and I think I just don't know that. Lindsay, just because you're a great player, you have to understand that great players or great athletes are wired a certain way. Mm-hmm. And if you move into coaching, not every player is going to be wired the same way that you are. And I don't know that she ever really fully connected or related to the players in a way that got the best out of them.
Sure.
So I think it was a number of factors. I think it was just being inexperienced as a coach, some recruiting misses, not getting enough talent, but also, just not having. I don't know if the expectations that they're all going to love the game and work at it the same way that Lindsay did, and they didn't. So I just don't know. We didn't hear a lot of that, but I just got the sense from afar that there was some frustration that she wasn't able to connect really fully with players.
Yeah, and from my sense too, and being around Lindsay quite a bit and knowing her fairly well, and I'm not trying to put words in her mouth. This is not something that she ever expressed in this way, but to me, watching her and talking to her about the process of coaching, I got the sense that she liked the challenge, that she loved a lot of the possibility, but I don't ever know that I got the sense that she loved coaching, that she loved everything that went into coaching. And maybe I'm off base with that. Maybe she did, and it just didn't work. But I got the sense that this was someone who was, competed at the highest level, loved everything about competing, loved everything about being in the game that way. And that coaching, whether it's the recruiting grind, whether it's, her expressing, how hard it is, especially the last few years with the transfer portal and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
there were parts about it that just wore on her in a way that made it hard to enjoy or fully love coaching.
Well, yeah. And it's like, when she was playing, did she say, man, when my playing days are over, I really want to get into coaching? I don't know. I never had that conversation with her, but we know how much she loves basketball and competition.
Yes, undeniable.
And so maybe
the
she
Hall
just
of
thought,
Famer.
One of the greatest winners and athletes the state's ever produced. So, and here's the other thing. What has she ever failed at?
Yeah.
So she's never failed at basketball as a player, right? Now she's maybe had tough seasons, but she's won at every level, at the highest level.
Olympics and 4-time WNBA champ, a Final Four with
Final
Gophers.
Four.
Yeah.
High school. So now all of a sudden you're at the other end. And I think that probably weighed on her, that the struggles to get the program going in the way that she wanted. And then you have players transfer or players not pan out the way you thought, or, recruiting hasn't gone as well as maybe you wanted. Now she did have this freshman class she brought in was highly decorated. So I thought that would, maybe start to turn, but a friend of mine, we were talking about it yesterday and he made the right observations. Like, she started over in year 5.
Yeah.
Essentially. This year was essentially a start over with this freshman class, and I'm going young and they're going to learn. When you do that early in your coaching career, year 2, you're afforded time to see what the results are. When you take that approach in year 5, the timetable doesn't line up. Right. Now, I thought that they would give her a year to see what Mara Braun can do in these different players. But clearly they felt like this was the time that 5 years was enough. And that now you can bet your bottom dollar that Cole's going to go try to find an experienced coach.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Chip, one game is never going to define anything. I don't think they made this decision off of losing the first round of the Big Ten tournament. I certainly hope they wouldn't, but the collective struggle this year, starting 2-14 in the Big Ten before winning those last 2 regular season games.
Yeah.
And then in particular, that game, which you were at, and did that game tell you something about her process and, maybe something that just still is a disconnect in terms of X's and O's or pure flat out coaching in her 5th year, where just didn't seem like they were quite ready for what Penn State was throwing at them?
Yeah, it was alarming to me, Mike. This was the 30th game of her 5th year, and they looked so ill prepared for that press. And let's be honest, Penn State's not a good basketball team.
No,
they had won 1 game since January. They lost 8 of 9 coming into this, so this is not a good team. And the Gophers just looked so nervous, befuddled, and poorly coached in that first half against that press. It's like, this is not year one. I mean, this is year 5. And even if it's their freshmen and young, this is not the first game of the season. This is a team that's played a lot of basketball. And I just thought that they just looked like they didn't. Now they made a frantic charge in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they got into it, but
they applauded themselves for the fight. But it's like, even seeing that, I thought, okay, give her another year. But I was alarmed by how ill prepared they looked for that game. And I saw Cole in the stands. He may have had his decision.
Yeah.
What he wanted to do before that. But, if he was on the fence, that probably led him to say, you know what, this is not the standard. It's really not.
And we've known Coyle to be decisive when a move needs to be made. And I go back to the beginning of his tenure and him talking about he's always got a list of available coaches, kind of thinking next move ahead, whether it's a coach who might leave for a different or better job, or whether it's a situation that's not working out. What is this decision to make this decision now? What does that tell you about Coyle, if anything new about Coyle?
Well, nothing. And I've known Mark Coyle for 20 years. I go back to when I was a beat writer. He was a marketing guy there. So I have a good relationship with him. I know him very well. People, I think the average fan don't really know him because he doesn't like the spotlight. He likes to be behind the scenes. But I'm telling you, like, I don't know if ruthless is the right word, but he makes decisions with conviction, and he doesn't care how it looks. I mean, firing Tracy Claeys after that bowl game was not a popular decision. He had made up his mind. He was going in another direction. That was always going to be the thing with Whalen. It's like, when you saw it was going down this path, you're like, boy, this is going to be awkward to have to fire Lindsay Whalen. I don't think he takes it lightly, but I don't think he was going to say, oh my gosh, it's Lindsay Whalen, a legend, I can't fire. I think he just is going to say it's not good enough, and this is the standard for everybody. And so he's made, decisions like this, maybe not obviously anyone would Whalen's resume and being a legend in this town, in this city. But it does not surprise me because he acts, he kind of runs that department in this banner. And so I bet he does have a list. I think it's safe to say it's going to be a coach who has experience.
Yeah.
As bad as it is right now, Mike, it's still a Big Ten job in a good basketball market.
Sure.
It's got to be desirable on some level to these coaches, right? He doesn't have to take another risk. There should be attractive candidates that are interested in this job because especially with you just watch the freshman class go through, a Big Ten season. That's something to build on. Assuming
well, that was my next question.
They don't transfer. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. If nobody transfers out, you'll know that players are, okay with this move.
Here for the program, not just for the coach. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't speak to say how that's going to go because I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. It's always a question now. And it was even before when a coach would leave, you're wondering if players will stay or if there's going to be some players that leave. And this was a decorated recruiting class. This was kind of the thing that you could point at and say, okay, yeah, maybe this can get better. And so, yeah, I guess from that standpoint, I am surprised that this is where we are right now. And again, this is being termed a resignation, and maybe we have to take it at face value to a certain degree and say that that's what it is. And maybe there's an element of kind of both sides saying, hey, this just isn't working out. Let's try something different and go from there. But ultimately, I think the way you framed it is right. It was a gamble to begin with, one that they were comfortable taking because it was a high ceiling, low floor kind of move, right? Like when you've got someone with such a pedigree in this state, someone so respected, but someone who's never done this, it could have gone a lot of different ways. And it was not a disaster, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, and I think it was, as I wrote, it's going to be a high boom or bust proposition. I thought it was either going to be really great or we're going to get to the end of this and say, I didn't think it would be just kind of like, a middling team that's, occasionally good. I just thought it was, it had it was going to be one or the other. And I don't think, I think once we get him removed from this and time goes on, people are going to still, view Lindsay Whalen the same manner. She's still beloved. I mean, I think, any reasonable person is going to look like, you know what? She's never been a coach. They took a try. It didn't work. Thankful she's still going to be, a part of the program and the history of that program. So, you didn't want it to really be any messier than what it was, right?
Yeah.
Because another year like this, it was going to be real uncomfortable for everybody, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, we will see where they go from here. Chip, appreciate your time as always. It was just a few days ago that we were talking about this kind of in hypothetical terms, and now here we are, but I'm sure there'll be more to talk about as time goes on, and I will cover this more on Friday's regular show as well once we get a chance to hear from Lindsay Whalen and Mark Coyle. Chip, appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right, Mikey.